when people use the term diversity, they're using it in the most superficial way possible, right? Like just on like first, I don't know who decided that diversity just means like race slash ethnicity, gender, and sexuality. Like, who picked those three things? Why is it not the case? Hey, we need oh, look at this situation. We don't have anyone who's everyone is 5'10" or taller. We need to get in some shorter people. Oh, look, all these people have brown eyes. We need some more blue-eyed people. Oh my gosh, you know what? We've got a lot of blondes, Lauren. Let's get some redheads and some brunettes or whatever. Like, and to do that, everyone knows that it would be silly, because it would be like, well, what, why are we trying to get people of different eye color, right? Why have we got eye color quotas? But then people apply it to other things. And the idea that you can have a room full of people who physically have different amounts of melanin in their skin, yet they all think exactly the same way on everything. The idea that that is a diverse room. And then if you had a room full of, it's just the most stupid way of looking at everything. It's quite fascinating how much steam it's gained to me when on a very basic level, you just have to have such a poor understanding of human beings, and you have to close your eyes to reality all day, every day, or again, as I said, just be completely ideologically possessed to believe some of these notions, right? We know that people are different. You're all this talk of diversity, and then you're just trying to treat people as if they are gray blobs. They're just interchangeable blobs or cogs in a machine. It doesn't matter if they're male, they're female, their background, anything, or their culture. You can just kind of swap them in and out. And that just totally makes sense because everyone's a blank slate. And it's just dumb. I mean, when people deny the concept that, I'm sorry, but by the time you are 3 or 4 years old, you have noticed that males and females are different. Probably before the age of 3, you just can't articulate it. A
Right.
2-year-old child can tell the difference between boys and girls, men and women, mom and dad, auntie and uncle. They can see that there are 2 different sexes, and they look different. Their voices sound different. They move differently. They have different body parts. That's noticed from a very young age. I'm sorry, there's no one who has gone through. There's no one who's made it to the age of 16 and hasn't noticed that boys and girls are different and that they behave differently and they have different interests and all of these things. But then suddenly you get into adulthood and we're just supposed to pretend that men and women are just interchangeable social constructs, to the point that you could throw a man into a female sport and there's no, that's totally fine. Or it's just so.
Well, and that's the thing where
I don't know.
It doesn't make sense. You're right, but we're so afraid of offending people. We don't want to be able to just speak the truth lest it upsets someone. Do you have some more super chats I want to get to? Savrik says, Aristotle, no man is a slave if better off free, meaning if a group cannot contribute to society, then they are better off a slave to the state. You can't run your businesses, but here's a stimulus check. Our good friend Gollum says surrogacy and gold digging same. We don't have to get into it because I do still want to ask you about prenups, but what are your brief thoughts on surrogacy? I don't think they're the same. It's the same as gold digging at the very least.
No, I think that's an odd question. I don't know why they'd be considered the same.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of surrogacy at all.
Yeah.
I can understand. Like many things, I can understand why some people would want to pursue it, but overall, I have some just very fundamental. Yeah, I have some very fundamental issues with it. I also just don't think it's not a necessity. I think it's something where the adult inclination and selfishness is superseding what is actually good for children and for human life. In many cases, I see a lot of examples of this. I think in all prior generations, adults would sacrifice for children, but we now live in a strange time where children are expected to sacrifice for adults. And I think this is one of the manifestations of it. I don't think that you are not entitled to children. Children are not an inherent human right. I think it's a shame that some people are infertile and cannot conceive naturally and so on, but there's no entitlement that just by existing as a man or a woman that you are going to have your own biological offspring. by the way, I think adoption is a fantastic thing. I think adoption should be much cheaper, and it should be there should be, obviously there need to be some important safeguards, but like there are millions of people out there in the world, millions of children who are seeking homes and adoptions. And once you're going and you're renting out women's wombs and you're pulling babies away from their birth mothers and, you know, giving them to essentially strangers, even if they do share DNA, it's the whole thing's gnarly, man. It's like a very weird, yeah, that's a whole topic, but I'm not a fan.
Mm-hmm. No, it's a hard thing to discuss because there are a lot of families now, or an increasing number of families who exist because of surrogacy. And I think two things can be true at once. Those children are a blessing, like all children are. And I hope that their families are happy and that they thrive and that they love each other. But simultaneously, the creation of a child with the explicit intent to remove him or her from the mother is cruel. And, you know, I say this having gone through a pregnancy, having had a newborn. And I, like you said, I understand the desire for a child and a biological child, but it is just what we used to accept as a fact of life that is not a possibility for every single person. I think you really hit the nail on the head where we've begun. And I mean, for a while, I think it maybe started with the boomers, but we pretty readily, especially now, put the desires, the comfort, the whims of adults over children, while simultaneously infantilizing adults. Strangely enough, it's a tough topic to talk about.